We work with a lot of different artists, and we collaborate with like-minded designers and people that we kind of share same sort of ethos, which is kind of how we got brought in together with Chris and the team. And we had sort of mutual friends, and we're both based in Hackney in London, and we just started
the best borough.
The best borough, and we just started talking, and we sort of developed a range again. That was just before COVID, but we've launched it, and it's been really successful.
So this is our second coming together.
Boardies
and Rayburn.
So, I mean, I've prepared some slides just to kind of just sort of vocal points, just to talk about Boardies, and there's a video that we just need to play, and then I'll just tell you a little bit about our journey. Boardies was part located in Bali for a couple of years before COVID, and we took some models out to the Gili Islands and just created this video, and I'll talk a bit about it afterwards. The band's called Habibi, if you want to know who the track is. Really cool New York sort of surf girl band. So that's the sort of that's how you might imagine Bali in Indonesia. This was in Gili T to be like, but there's another side to Bali that's, it's quite sad really when it comes to the environment. So I'm kind of giving you like two contrasts of videos here. So you get the idea. So truth being told, the first couple of years we did Boardies, I didn't really consider sustainability or the impact of our fabrics on the world. There wasn't really any brands who were using recycled fabrics or focusing on that. There was one brand I could think of, but living in Bali and seeing this sort of day to day, and I'll show you some more slides, it just sort of triggered something. And when you're like swimming in the ocean or you're surfing in the ocean and you literally have a plastic bag in your face, you realize, it's very obvious what the problem is. I also, so this was me down in Uluwatu in Bali, and with some friends, and we're talking about one of the problems was
fishing nets, rope, washed up on the beach. You can see how animals just get caught in here and just can't get out, or get some tall limb, or all the plastic rope. You get all the everything.
Well, you can only got things that plastic to do it.
Just gets all jumbled up in all the sticks, all the styrofoam, big styrofoam.
So we were just on the beach one day, and we just did an impromptu beach cleanup, because we're just seeing flip-flops everywhere, and some of them are people just leaving them on the beach because they've gone for a swim and the tide's come in and taken them, and other ones they've been thrown out. So what happens in Bali is a lot of the waste is coming in the rivers, and also coming from other islands like Java, and then the kind of just the tides just bring them onto the shore, which creates this problem. So we just did this impromptu kind of cleanup, and we hung what we found like on the tree, almost like on a washing line, almost just as a bit of art, just to kind of show, get people to kind of think about the problem with the plastic. The guy on who was talking there is a friend of mine, and they work for a brand called Indosol, which Boardies is collaborating with, and they turn car tires or motorbike tires, and they turn them into flip-flops. So I've got a sample here, which I'll pass around, and you can have a look at them. So there's like 1.5 billion car tires a year that are just they're just sort of thrown into the environment, and there's nowhere for them to go. They're burnt, and then so all the fumes are going into the atmosphere, or they're dumped in the oceans, and they just can't disintegrate. They just never go away. So this brand, it's a really cool brand, and we're working with them. But just spending time with these guys and like learning from them and learning about all the issues we face with the environment was a big part of my journey. And through that, I met this really cool artist, environmentalist called Linda Klaus, and she creates art out of rubbish and trash from plastic from the oceans that washes up, and that kind of inspired something that we did later on.
Is this all still involved?
Yeah. So I'm not sure you can see her Instagram handle, but if you want to see it, it's Lena Klaus, spelled down there. But really cool, amazing woman, really kind of inspiring. I did the beach cleanup that day. It was just one section of a beach, just about 5 miles from where I live. And it's just a quiet beach, and we were able to create that sculpture from that day. Here's some examples of some of the big culprits. And these are all single-use plastic things, and all this sort of stuff, the cutlery you get from a takeaway, that was consistent, toothbrushes, toothpastes. The other one, it's not there, lighters, disposable lighters, and then loads of flip-flops and loads of carrier bags, you name it. So it's a real problem. So that's kind of like a bit of a dilemma when you're making polyester swim shorts. It's like, well, you're kind of potentially contributing to the destruction of the environment, yet you love the environment, so you've got this sort of conflict there. So we've started sort of developing a product and working with established like top fabric manufacturers who do recycled polyester and recycled nylon. So we've got Repreve on the polyester, and they're all made in America. It's a filament from plastic water bottles from post-consumer waste. They're probably the industry leaders in it. And then Econol is based from Italy, and they use recycled nylon, and they use post-consumer waste and a lot of fish nets, things from the ocean, and actually create the fabric for that. And then Tencel is a type of wood pulp, but it's the type of treatment that is used makes it way more sustainable than a rayon or a viscose. I'll pass around some of the things. You can have a look at the garments. Got some of the women's wear there and kids wear and the shirt. So then I'll play this briefly. This is from our women's wear. This is an Econol video. I'll play a little bit of it.
It's nylon. We all know what it is, where it comes from, and where it ends up. But we are writing another story. Through a unique regeneration process that takes place in Slovenia. We are transforming a waste problem into incredible design and fashion solutions. The resulting nylon has the same quality as virgin nylon yarn and can be recycled infinitely.
So, like I was saying, when I first launched the brand, there's only one other brand. There was only one brand I knew doing it. I could say they're called Riz. They're quite a cool London-based brand. But now, thankfully, there's a lot more brands doing it, and the high street are using these recycled fabrics. When we first started talking to Chris and got introduced to the team, it's quite daunting, really, because Chris has been doing this for 12 years, and been repairing and improving all the garments and working with recycled fabrics and reusing fabrics. And we were getting some momentum in it, but we still had a lot to learn. So we were challenged. We were challenged by what the credentials were going to be on the product, and everything from the swing tickets that we were creating and all the trims and the back labels and everything. We had to really sort of go back to drawing board and think, well, how can we make this product with Ray-Ban as sustainable as possible? And we had to change all our trim suppliers and kind of push them and say loads of headaches. We're really delighted, because it actually pushed us to innovate and pushed us to kind of like improve our standards. Now that's become a bit of a norm. Now we've done a collaboration with Liberty, and now all Liberty's, just we're able to use the same kind of the knowledge that we've had now, and now all their products are all made from the same materials and got the same sort of details. Inspired by Linda Klaus, we did a beach cleanup, or actually it was the Regent's Canal.
Not as beachy. It wasn't quite Bali.
In Hackney, and it was a funny day because it was absolutely pissing down, and we just kind of got on with it, really. We got absolutely soaked, and it's a little dog at the back there that got absolutely soaked.
Picked up a lot of litter though.
Yeah. And then we again, inspired by Linda Klaus, we created our own kind of sculpture, which was just all from the plastic, and that was only some of it.
Yeah, just to add, guys, we as a team, I think we 15, 20 people across the day, and we probably only cleaned up about, let's say, maximum two miles of canal, and we had 15, 20 big black bags just full of obviously bottles, cans, loads of rubbish, carpets, batteries, all of this stuff. We weren't even, really going in that deep. It was just things on the canal side that then, of course, are going to go into the canal itself and waterways and next step. So it's a tiny little part.
Tiny little part of London.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. And we were able to create this pretty cool shark.
Which I'll be honest, when Nick first suggested this, I was like, yeah, it sounds cool. Yeah, maybe we can do something. But Nick was very, very convincing. We hopefully
we sort of pulled off something, but
come on. We can paint pictures with words if needed.
This was World Oceans Day, which was yesterday, so it's almost exactly 1 year ago that we did this. think it got the proportions pretty good with the.
Yeah,
They look really cool with the drone.
and that was a tiny amount of what we'd actually collected on the day. That then obviously worked with the colour palette and everything else.
Yeah.
No,
So that's kind of it, really. It was just Chris asked me to kind of just talk about Bordy's journey, and it felt like these were the sort of things that were most relevant to talk about, kind of sort of how we got to where we were to where we are here.
yeah, well, no, thank you. I think it's always good to have a bit of context and yeah, like lots of things I learned as well through that journey. I guess I'm interested as well. If you, I'm allowed to say this because we're a little bit older. It's not like
Yeah.
we've come straight out of uni and you
Yeah.
know, started our brands. What happened in between your early sort of 20s and then starting Bordy's and like future career and obviously that moment you woke up in literally in Bali and were like, I've got to do something about this
Yeah.
because that's quite a big part. Right?
Yeah, I was lucky. I always sort of worked in fashion and sportswear. Really, my first job was working for Reebok, and I literally answered an advert that was back then was like a poster on a notice board, and you kind of had to write a letter to apply for a job. And then I worked for brands like Umbro and Levi's and K-Swiss. And did all my sort of training in. I'm a marketeer, so I was doing marketing for those brands for about 10, 12 years, and then started becoming a bit more entrepreneurial and sort of branched out, and then tried a few different things, then ended up launching Bordy's. So always had a sort of love for nature and the ocean, and kind of fell into it, and it's just kind of kept going.
What took you to living in Bali?
We do a lot of manufacturing in Asia. Some of the best printing is still in Asia, and I've got family in Australia, and it's kind of like in the middle. And
So for anyone looking maybe to start their own brand or to learn, I think Nick's got the right idea. So
Yeah.
you can split your manufacturing and
it was based there for 2 years, so it was easy to get to the factories. We're doing some manufacturing in Denpasar in Bali, so we're making all the women's wear in Bali, and you literally could jump on a scooter and go to the factory each day, and all the workers are there. And it's great for photo shoots, it's great for content, and it's beautiful islands, beautiful people, amazing food, and it's escape from London. But I'm back now, so
smiling all the way.
Yeah.
Nick came back, was it Sunday?
I've just been visited there again. I came back on Friday, I think it was.
Just
Yeah.
as the weather turned and you
Yeah.
enjoyed the British summer. I suppose how much thought has gone into just the localization aspect as well, because obviously Bali means a lot to you, and then manufacturing side and
Yeah.
trying to do what you can to support, I guess, a lot.
There's
on
a
that.
real movement over there. I mean, it's changing all the time. It's becoming a lot more commercial now. It's getting busier. More people are visiting Bali now, which is great because they've had 2 years of like no business, and 90% of their economy is tourism. So I'm really happy for those guys. But there's a lot of entrepreneurialism there. There's a lot of people trying new things, taking risks, and there's a lot of people that care about the environment. So like the type of the friendships that I forged there were with people like the guys from Indosol that are doing really cool stuff, and then you're meeting people that are in the surf industry that are trying to sort of pioneer things in the surfing industry in this area. You meet all kinds of funny characters, and it felt like when I first went there, it felt like you could do anything. It felt like you could literally, you want to make something, you could make it.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure, like making the women's wear, we did some men's shorts there as well. We kind of felt like we had to use recycled materials, and now we made a commitment from autumn into this year that all of our menswear, all our main line is all made from Repreve, and it's a big commitment because it's more expensive, and that affects the financials in terms of the profit that we can make, and can we function this way? Can we make the business work this way if we increase our costs? We try.
But it's being noticed, right? And without making you blush, you've won a few pretty decent awards
Oh,
because
thank
of the
you.
way you've been doing all this, right?
Yeah, we won a Queen's Award last year for
The Queen, how topical is that? Giving them awards.
yeah, went to Windsor Castle, met Prince Charles, and that was for enterprise international trade. So about 90% of our business is overseas, so outside the UK, mainly in America, Canada, and Australia. So that's quite a cool award to win, and a testament. And they actually do one for sustainability, and I was trying to push Chris to apply.
We're on it.
I
don't
still
worry.
think you should do it.
It's on the list.
Yeah.
So having made you blush a bit, what's been the biggest challenge and what hasn't worked? Because we've got loads of stuff that hasn't worked in Rayburn. And I think about some of the fantastic mistakes we've made.
I mean, women's wear is really tough. Trying to get the fits and the shapes right and the materials, and it's a very, very competitive market. I mean, in Bali, if you meet a girl, she's either a jewelry designer, a life coach, or she's a bikini designer.
Right.
And yeah, it's just a very, very cluttered, tough market, women's wear.
But then who, in terms of the team that are supporting you on the technical side, is it working with factories that understand the process? Or I know you've been kind of growing the team a little bit even since the time we met.
Yeah, we've grown the team, and we've got really great core team, and we sort of work within our means and kind of grow organically. We're not in a rush, and we're under no pressure. We've got no targets. We're just trying to grow sensibly. And 2020 was a tough year. We've bounced back for 2021, and this year should be a record year. And women's wear long term will be a great opportunity for us. We just got to rethink it a little bit and get it right. But our biggest growth area is kids wear, and actually it's a lot of mums buying for the kids, so that gives us an opportunity to try and talk to those women.
This was never going to fit me. So yeah, amazing, right? And actually, in all seriousness, like Rayburn, we've never done kids wear. So by working together on the second season and now doing kids wear, we've had an opportunity to test and do something we wouldn't have normally done, which has then had an amazing reaction for us. So it's a really good way, I just think, in terms of collaboration has been a really core part of our business from the very, very beginning. But I've always thought, again, for anyone maybe listening in or looking to do their own thing, if you're able to work with someone that's best in class, rather than thinking, hey, I need to do swimwear and footwear and all of these different things, because they're unbelievably difficult. If you can partner with someone that knows what they're doing to begin with, you've got a much better chance to then learn. And it's good to hear that we pushed you in the right way to improve your product. Now we've learned loads from the process.
Yeah.
And now we've got really cool kids wear that we've never normally had. So this is in the Tencel as well, right?
Yeah. No, it's really soft, great feel, takes the ink really well. All the buttons are made from coconut shell, and all the swing tickets and all the back labels, I think, are all sustainable. Basically, they are either recycled plastic, or I think we're using a type of cotton on the back label.
Decent. Maybe it's good actually just to talk a little bit about the qualities of some of the materials as well, because I know, for example, the poly has different print opportunities versus Tencel, and there are like different reasons that you're choosing the different materials. So, but a little.
Yeah, I mean, the women's wear tends to be nylon, and it's a blend with spandex or elastane. And it seems to be, I'm not technical in that way, but it must be that the nylon seems to work better with the elastane. But then we do, the way O'Connell used to work was that they did a lot of solid colors, and you could get like an array of different colors and solid colors, but they wouldn't do printed colors. And then we would use Repris for the reprint. So we'd almost have a nylon elastane and a poly kind of, because a lot of the women's swimsuits are reversible, so they have a solid colour on the inside and a print on the outside. But now I think O'Connell's now doing printed or a fabric that you can print on as well. We used to do. We've done cotton shirts, and we've done some rayon shirts, but we finished on Tencel, and it's a really sort of lightweight. It feels very cool when you wear it.
Definitely. Tested mine in Marseille over Easter. 300 days of sun.
Nice.
Very good.
And yeah, it takes the ink really well. So we're experimenting and we're learning all the time. There's going to be other great fabrics for us to discover, and more that will be
So
innovative.
you're always kind of constantly looking as well.
Yeah.
So I guess one thing, again, complete transparency, we've been aware of in Rayburn is we do a lot of recycled plastic, that we make into everything from outerwear to accessories, very, very high quality. We're very pleased, but we're also considering, long term, you can make something that's recycled and recyclable, and there's merits to that. But you also know that has still an impact, right, on the environment. So long term, are we going to be in a position where hopefully the oceans have been cleaned up and we've decided not to carry on chucking plastic in them, hurrah, but then we can start to use even more natural materials as well through products. And you told me something amazing about what used to happen, not practical for today, but what swimwear used to be made from in the old days.
It's just wool.
Yeah.
Wool's the most sustainable material for swimwear. And they used to wear it, like a lot of the lifeguards would use it. But it's heavy. It takes the water, which isn't good when you're trying to swim, and it
doesn't dry quickly.
It doesn't dry quickly.
It warms with you, right?
Yeah, keeps you warm. Pre-wetsuits, they would use like wool jumpers in like cold water surfing, and then sit by a fire and then warm up and then go to surf. Before it was Jack O'Neill invented the wetsuit for O'Neill.
I found that fascinating, so I want Nick to share that. But I think it's sort of an example of the way we don't necessarily want to go back to, but hopefully, a lot of what we try to do in Rayburn, and then also through other collaborations, is still, again, it's kind of test and learn. So one of the roles I have working with Timberland, so you guys might know, but we collaborate with Timberland, a lot is around regenerative agriculture and how we can do things that are more quite positive in terms of natural materials in particular. I'm going to look to Joe to see if there were any questions or the audience and things, if anyone did have any burning questions obviously for Nick or myself. But while we're waiting as well, Nick, I'll also say, if you had your magic wand for boardies, where do you see things going into the future, and what do you kind of want things to carry on doing? Is it just about the steady growth, or other things you want to be doing outside of swimwear?
Boardies is a lifestyle brand, so it's as much about sort of my lifestyle, my team's lifestyle, and kind of what sort of business we want to run. We want to be independent. We're an independent brand. We want to grow as we all do, but we want it to be done in a sustainable way, in terms of not trying to stretch ourselves. And we want to be sort of conscious about how we conduct ourselves and what sort of impact we're having on the world. And we'd like to do more things. We'd like to do more charity type things. Actually, we've got a program in Sydney which is to do with raising awareness of mental health in fire surfing. It's called One Wave. And just sort of give more back. It's obviously more money we can do more with more money, but that's not really a driver for the brand. It's more about life experience and
on that note, though, for those that paid a £5 to come this evening, it goes to charity, right? And you've chosen a charity.
Yeah, it's the WWF, not the wrestling one.
Definitely not the Wrestling Federation, but again, I guess it's close to your heart, right? Same for us.
Just want to give back, and like you said, when you're in nature and you're immersed in it, and you see some of the sort of mindless destruction from human beings, it moves you.
And have you actually seen, let's say positive things happening in Barney though? Because it's pretty bonkers to look at 60, 70 tons of rubbish picked up at a time. But is that just happening every week and then coming back? Or rainy
season's really bad. It's when the rivers kind of wash it all into the ocean and it comes back. I would never sort of surf after it rains really hard, because you're going to get a lot of pollution as well. There's a lot of sewage, and I heard that I think by 2023 or 24 they're going to ban single-use plastic in Bali. But a lot of it's education and I see there are signs for it, but it's bonkers when you see someone just literally just throw in like a wrapper or a plastic water bottle on the floor. But it's not just the Balinese or the locals, it's the tourists that are there
Yeah.
that, you know, they haven't discovered that, you know, there's refills everywhere in every bar, every cafe, every coffee shop or whatever. You can just fill up your
It just
water
seems
bottle.
insane, doesn't it, to go to one of the most beautiful countries in the world and then chuck litter about.
Yeah, but it happens here as well. So, you know, it happens. It's a worldwide problem, and it's exaggerated in places like Bali because they don't have the infrastructure. I was in Sri Lanka in February or March, and the beaches were so clean. It's amazing, and I can only put that down to the good old British Empire and the just the infrastructure that was built around the roads, and actually having like bin men coming. But then again, the beaches are clean, but where does all that go? So they've taken it away and they've put it into landfill probably. But it's trying to change the mindset that, you know, when someone offers you, you know, a plastic container, a plastic bottle, a plastic straw, or whatever, a plastic bag, you just say no, I don't need that, thank you. And you actually carry your own things, and if enough people do that, then you'll start seeing that real change. But it's changed so much in 5-10 years. Like, I mean, I wasn't drinking from this 6 years ago, but you know, if you,
wouldn't
you
stop
can't,
that. Yeah, it has to give us sort of hope. My thing, and a few of you might have heard this before, I think in fashion we haven't had the equivalent of David Attenborough looking down the lens on Blue Planet 2 and saying it's up to you to make the difference. And I'm honestly, I struggle what that moment will be, because we've had Rana Plaza and all of these horrendous, you know, absence and fast fashion. I don't know really what's going to kind of wake people up to the reality that, if we carry on doing what we're doing and we don't seek better changes. And I guess, you know, I'm not putting this on you to be clear to answer now. I just think, again, back to the point of things like Ray-Ban Connect and meeting brilliant people like Nick, I think it's all of us we need to think and challenge and look to young designers coming through and different ways of doing stuff.
It's an awareness thing. It's a mindset thing. It goes beyond fashion. It's just mankind, and some people are more thoughtful and caring about other people and the environment and the world, and other people are just in their own little world and they don't think about that, and that's a hard thing to change. But you know, the more awareness there is, and the more people that sort of change their behavior. I mean, look at veganism, and you know that if you said someone's a vegan 20 years ago, they'd think you're crazy or you're really strange. Now it's become popular, and you know, for good reasons, and you know that long term should help the environment in terms of the amount of cattle there are, or the amount of milk that's being produced and things like that. But you know, it's
a good point. Is there anything really radical that happens in swimwear? So I know it's a different thing and much bigger, but I've been really impressed that now, particularly in ski holidays and things, very few people own their own ski kit anymore. Like loads of people just go and hire it. But 10 years ago, everyone bought their own kit. And then, of course, nearly 12 months of the year it just sat there covered at home. But is anyone doing anything around like subscriptions or loaning or hiring or swapping? I know it's a bit of a weird thing because maybe it's a bit more intimate. Swimwear, but
I think you've got it there.
Just too weird.
It's just I mean, maybe like wetsuits and stuff, you don't need to buy your own wetsuit. Usually places have wetsuits. Swimwear is a very personal thing. For me, it's about creating a product that's going to last, and that, you know, people do like to have a new outfit for a holiday or something, but as long as it stays in the drawer and they keep using it and wearing it and it's built to last, that's the main thing. It's when you can see certain high street brands selling, I mean, a pair of swim shorts you could buy in the store on Oxford Street for £3. Well, we can barely make one for £3. They're selling them for £3, and you've got to question, you know, how and what.
Who made it?
Not just the materials, but who made it? You know, what was their kind of what's their existence like in the factories or whatever, and it's that sort of fast fashion that is changing, and people, I won't name names, but you know, certain retailers have been called out about it. Major retailers that, you know, are on the stock market, and you know, a little bit of bad press and it affects the share price, and they're having to really look at it
Yeah.
But it's the consumers that, the public that need to really think
Yeah.
about things.
Yeah, absolutely. For anyone that's not up to speed with Fashion Revolution and their amazing campaign where it's who made my clothes, and really actually then all about transparency and going behind all this sort of stuff, it's well worth a look.
Yeah.
If there are no questions, I don't know if we've had anything. Yes, here we go.
Do you remember any of the brands you've worked for over the years ever talking about anything like this, or about working conditions of the manufacturing places?
I'm just going to sort of re-ask the question for anyone on IGTV. So if I understand correctly, with all of the collaborators for Mick, is this the people that really...
Previous brands he's worked for, like, do you remember any conversation about...
Bigger brands.
Yeah, so in your previous life.
Or conditions of your work?
Well, 20, 30 years ago, Nike got really called out on their conditions. It's very well known, that very documented, and they had to change a lot. I didn't work for them, but I worked for Reebok, a big competitor. No, it was never something that was talked about really. I think Reebok actually had an association to do with human rights and the workers. So actually they were more to do with just the rights of people. There's a certain charity that they worked with, but I mean, Levi's has always been very progressive as a brand anyway. So I don't remember it being something that we talked about, but they will always talk about repairs and trying to, a pair of Levi's can last you your whole life, and it's better to repair a broken zip or a button or something. So they were probably the one brand that sort of stood out as, and now they're doing a lot. My understanding is Levi's are very, very progressive in this field. But yeah, more for me, it's like it shouldn't be a selling point that you're making your garments from recycled fabric. It should just be a normal thing. It should just be like, but of course they're made from recycled. I see a lot of brands and they really try and push that as their leading thing, and it's like it's not a unique selling point anymore, and it shouldn't be. It should just be something that you have to do. It makes sense to do it. So I think it's going to be more strange going forward. The balance is going to tip, whereby if you're not making your products from recycled products, then there's something wrong, But unfortunately, it's just going to take time, and there's still consumers out there that want value, and they want cheap products, they want disposable products, and there's retailers that want to give it to them. But...
Well, keep fighting the good fight, Nick.
Thanks.
And we'll try and do the same. Any other questions before
Just one more.
Please.
How did you guys both find building your team?
I would outsource to begin with. So rather than hiring an employee to start with, you find somebody that maybe can work as a consultant or on a day rate for you. So, some of our first graphics were done through a freelance graphic designer who we were friendly with, and then kind of trying to sort of build as you can really, and think about what's important, but in terms of like role and position. But we're a small team, there's a small team, about 5 of us, and we all have to wear lots of hats every day and do lots of different things. We don't have the luxury of just having real specialist areas. But I would say outsource, like just try and tap into people's expertise. And technology's so great now that a lot of things like before you'd have to try and design a website like 10, 15 years ago. You don't need to do that anymore. There's templates, there's software, you can do it all. Don't know if that answers your question.
No, how did you find your team, people that you work with?
How do I find them?
Yeah.
Just through connections, really, friends of friends, and then more recently, sort of advertising. One of our key colleagues, his previous business unfortunately went bust. It wasn't his, but he was working for a guy, and as soon as I heard that, I phoned him up straight away and said, "Do you want a job?"
It's funny actually. So in the sort of 13 years that I've been in business, the first not employee, but the first part-time freelance seamstress I hired was an amazing lady called Pat. I had a studio up in Luton to begin with, first studio. We're now onto our fifth, but that was literally putting an advert in the Friday ad at the time and then waiting for people to phone you up, right? And now, of course, finding people, it's LinkedIn and sometimes Business of Fashion for us. Our whole team, we're about 25 across the whole company. But really importantly, I think, as Nick touched on, it's definitely about not committing early on. And and I mean that really respectfully. You might think someone's amazing, but if you work with them for 3 months, you'll find out pretty quickly, what really their strengths are and kind of by default what yours are. And the quicker, of course, you can work out, again, respectfully, what you're not good at or what you don't want to be doing, then you know straight away, well, that's the niche, right? That's the person that I sort of need to bring in. And I think what's really benefited Rayburn now is, I think we're very agile. Even before COVID, the way that we worked, we had the majority of our seamstresses could work from home. Our graphic designer and art director, if I was lucky, even before COVID, one lives in Paris and one in Berlin. If I was lucky, I'd see them once a year in person. So we'd already sort of developed this really agile way of working. And it's the same now post-COVID, and now we're sort of largely back to normal, if you will. Most of the team members will only ever actually be in 3 days a week, and they have their 2 days at home, and we've got that much more balance to things. But it really, it sort of really depends. And the final thing I'll wrap up with is the first 5 years of the business for Rayburn, I actually did pretty much everything on the design side and the admin side. So I learned how to do everything from VAT receipts and all of this like crazy stuff that honestly I've forgotten now. I wouldn't know how to do it, and I wouldn't want to do it. But I'm grateful that I did do it, because it gives you a really rounded appreciation for your team, and you really value the fact that you've got people. And the joke is, I can't use Excel, but we've got team members that absolutely love it. Right? Shout out to Will. But it's really important, and it isn't easy. Honestly, finding the people and growing that team is one of the most difficult things.
Yeah.
But it's also one of the most engaging. And when people say to me, "What are you most proud of?" I normally say my team, because you find incredible people that give you so much, and it really means a lot. Yeah. Another question.
Where do you begin outsourcing or cutting to factories and suppliers, like where it seems like the dates?
I'll just repeat. So the question there as well is how we find suppliers in particular, and outsourcing. How do you trust a factory? I guess by default, is it a case of getting in there if you're in Bali and actually working, and seeing the factory lines? Or
yeah, it was in Bali. It's easier if you can just jump on a bike or a car and go over and see them face to face. Unfortunately, we don't have those places in London or the UK anymore, really, like they used to be. Just like networking, I think it's hard. By the time I launched Boardies, I already had some experience in the network, so I had some contacts, some friends and people that worked in the design world that could kind of help do some introductions. But if you're straight out of college and you haven't got those yet, it's sort of being resourceful. Again, you can try and network and meet people who are older and have jobs that are in different areas, and try and ask them. Some brands are really great at the disclosure of who they work with. Brands like Patagonia, Finisterre are good at that. They list who their factories are. Fortunately, some of these factories, they work on high quantities, and they're not necessarily going to want to help with small quantities. But it's a lot of trial and error, and there's a lot of LinkedIn, and you probably get a lot of requests, friends requests on LinkedIn, and people from different factories around the world, and
I do think the most important thing, the reason I guess I even asked it in terms of Bali, the biggest thing is actually, if you can, go and visit the people, because really quickly if a factory is transparent, and do they want to show you their workers, are they proud of the environment, and if they're not, and you're just showing a little office space at the beginning, and they want to get you out, you kind of get a sense quite quickly that
Yeah.
it doesn't sort of feel right. And so,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think
it's
that's-
that was really cool in Bali that, you know, they're literally, the workers are there, and you can always see the fabric arrive. All the trims are there. Then they've got a production process, and then, you know, this person's working on the pocket, this person's working on the collar, and then they're putting it all together, and you kind of get to know them. And they're all really smiley and really friendly over there. So, but otherwise, you know, it's hard. It must have been great when, you know, back in the day when you could make stuff in England and you could.
yeah, the thing I would say just about the England comment is I
You
think,
still can.
yeah, I do think that I mean, we've certainly experienced there are definitely more factories now opening up. Unfortunately, some are still closing. For your type of product, it's not the right place to be doing things generally here in the UK.
Yeah.
But we're incredibly good at doing some, you know, wool jackets and accessories, and even jersey or knitwear in Leicester and of course Scotland and things. So back to not wanting knitted wool swimwear.
Swimwear,
right? You know,
yeah.
it's not. I mean, our philosophy with Rayburn is always trying to make the highest possible quality product in the right place to make it. Because we've tried doing technical outerwear here in the UK, we're just not set up for it. But then we invested as a business in our own making facility for the remade aspects of what we do, and then we've done amazing denim in Black Horse Lane, and you know, it's really about finding. I think again, it's back to that collaboration and what this evening is all about, right? Getting people that really get you, and particularly if you're starting something when you're small, you're not going to rock in with, you know, even 100 pieces, but they want to grow with you and they really understand your values and what you're all about. So
Yeah.
I had a question on Instagram. So it's from Alice Core in London. It says, apart from new sustainable materials, are process-focused sustainability, e.g. digitized processes of design and development, something you feel is worth looking into going forward?
digital swimwear, NFTs, Nick?
Oh god, not that.
So digital processes of design and development.
Yeah, so things like maybe Clo3D and all of that. I'm not sure if it's in your work, but an example, I guess, maybe for you, where I know from my experience with Timberland, right? Timberland, incredible company, but we make a lot of physical samples, right, every year. And more recently, Timberland's really innovated where if a t-shirt is in 8 different colours, do you really need to make all 8 things, or can you have a beautiful render, a 3D render that the buyer can then go, oh yeah, no, I get it. Or if it's the yellow boot, but the yellow boot's green, you really need it, right? So there, I guess there's a few examples where certainly within Rayburn, we see the merit, and we've even experimented now for our new collection at Pitti next week. First making things on Clo, and then making it in real, but we're not quite ready to launch in the metaverse.
We're very, like, words that are important to Boardies are like authenticity, originality, genuine, and we were just quite happy in this realm, in this world, and really I got no interest in a virtual one, so I don't really have an interest for Boardies.
So that's the answer for the internet. Amazing. Yeah, please.
I know that no brand can be perfect, but I was just wondering, obviously air pollution is a massive issue as well. Transportation wise in the fashion industry, is there anything developing that is better for the environment than this?
I mean, ultimately, it's all about onshoring and localization long term. And you're right. I mean, global supply chains and all of the logistics around that, it's a phenomenal, very, very complex mess. And in simple terms, if you can ship something, but that thing will take 6 to 8 weeks longer, that's a good step. So it's all about planning in advance. And then, of course, you can offset, and you can work with certain partners. You know, with Rayburn, we're transparent about the partners that we work with and trying to offset. But the truth is, it's not an exact science. But I'm really interested on Rayburn's sort of perspective long term is we currently do remade in England product. We take parachutes and we do, you know, things like this, and we make them into jackets, and we do all of that here. And then we ship some of it to Japan or China or USA or Canada. So wouldn't it be cool if we could do remade in Canada and be using parachutes that are already in Canada, right? Or China, you know, and this is the long-term sort of vision of what we're looking at, and trying again, while we're sort of accepting that, and thanks for saying it, we're by no means perfect, but trying to do the right thing and plan for a better future, I think is really the key.
I heard a really interesting podcast the other day, and the brand in America was talking how they have real ambitions to do everything completely plant-based, and the cotton is grown, I think, in Carolina. So in America, the cotton's grown there, but it's shipped to Korea, to the mills in Korea for it to be spun. Yeah, that's the right word. And then comes back to America. And the point was that, you know, there used to be mills, cotton mills in America, and then they closed them all down. So the idea is that you can, if you got the raw material in America, if someone creates the original cotton mills again, then you could do it all in America.
Yeah.
Levi's used to do all their denim in
The funny
America.
thing about loads of this stuff, it's just going back to what we used to do, which made more sense, you know, making things properly to begin with, even making clothing, you know, with bigger seam allowances that you could change, you know, as you grow, all of that sort of thing. So some of it's really kind of analog and old school, and then some of it's quite radical in terms of what we can do, linking them with particularly regenerative agriculture and things I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it's like in the supermarket, seeing all the brown paper bags coming back.
Yeah.
It just goes full circle.
Yeah, and also seeing bananas in wrappers.
Yeah.
And apples in plastic in the US.
Yeah.
Like, bonkers.
Yeah. Bonkers.
So, any others? I was a bit worried there'd be no questions, and then we've got lots. Anything from the blog? Any difficult questions? No, that's been amazing. Here we go.
Sorry. When you were still like as a kind of like a startup with Rayburn and Baldies, what was the best things that you guys done to like grow your business and like scale from like a startup to like an actual organization? Like in terms of like, was it collaborations or was it like a specific kind of ads? Or what did you do to like, I don't know, skyrocket?
What, the silver bullet?
Yeah. So we get that this evening. I'm happy to go and maybe have a little think, but for Rayburn, definitely, I sound like a broken record, but I really think collaborations helped us early on because on the one hand, I mean, it was genuinely a tiny company. I bought one parachute, 30 quid, bought it on eBay, made it into 8 garments, showed at London Fashion Week in a space no bigger than this to begin with, a tiny rail. I didn't know what I was doing. No idea. And literally, next thing you know, second season, and I made a slightly bigger collection. I took it to Paris. I literally just took one backpack, you know, and took it to Paris and started to get my first orders from stores abroad. And because what I was doing was different, and that's, you know, a really key thing in this, it kind of links. You have to have something that people are going to want to get excited about or kind of want to help, because you'll find particularly, and I don't want to generalise, but you'll find journalists that have been in the industry for a while, they've kind of seen everything, right? So they're only really looking for something new that they can then help I guess, communicate. And if you, on the other hand, are organised and you do everything you can to help them, they're going to want to help you, right? So that's one side of things. And then my experience was we were lucky early on to win quite a few awards, British Fashion, New Gen supporting the British Fashion Award, and a few of those things, and you get put on your little pedestal, you know, and everyone goes, oh wow, that's the shiny new thing, and you get buyers come from around the world. And then all of a sudden you have a load of problems because you've got to make a lot more stuff maybe than you were thinking you might. And so it's really important, I would say, to make sure you pace yourself, you know, and that is part of all of this, because it's all very well going, how do I start and how do I grow? But actually, you know, what do you do? One of the best bits of advice I had, an amazing mentor early on with the business, Suzanne Tide-Frater, and we met probably when I was about 28, 29, and I'm now 40, close to 40. Suzanne was brilliant because in my late 20s, I wanted to do everything, right? Absolutely, we can do, you know. And Suzanne just goes, what you can do by the time you're 30, if you do all of this in the first 2 years. And then we met a few, you know, what you can do by the time you're 30, 32. And it's so important. You've got a whole life with a bit of luck. You need to pace yourself. And then to answer the other part of your question there, absolutely the thing that got us on the map was working with other brands and linking this together. The moment we were getting that little bit of a spotlight and we were being approached by other companies who wanted a bit of that spotlight because you're the new thing, right? You've got a great opportunity to then appeal to others. So we were lucky to work with companies like Moncler, Victorinox, and my approach was very selective. I wanted to be known for outerwear to begin with, so working with Moncler and Barbour early on really helped with that, and I said no to lots of other things. And then we thought, well, maybe we want to do accessories. So we did them with Porter Yoshida, one of the best backpack makers in Japan, because I've been on a trip and met some amazing people. And then when we wanted to do footwear, there was no thought that we were going to do our own. We worked with Clarks to begin with, and Palladium, and now with Timberland, so that we can continue to grow and learn. And that way, you're managing your risk, and you're learning, and you're giving a lot as you go, and you can have a bit more freedom. So it's a really long answer, but
I enjoyed it.
hopefully helpful. Yeah.
I should say, like, the silver bullet would be what Chris said was about, doing something different and unique. Like, if you're going to launch a brand, you've really got to ask yourself, what is the gap in the market that you're filling? Is it something that's not been done before? Is it something really unique or different? Is it a different take on something that's been done already? As long as it's something that's genuinely interesting and unique and different, and that you're going to stand out, then you just focus on that, then you should be successful. And Boardies really focuses on design and original prints and graphics. Every season we have all new graphics again, and the attention to detail we put into our product, and the sort of stories we tell through our designs, it seems to resonate with the consumer, and that's our point of difference, because anyone can make a pair of swim shorts, honestly, but it's like there's cool designs and there's ones that you've seen a million times before. So Chris had his niche, he had his direction, what he wanted to do, and it was different.
Amen to that. And the other thing, I guess, to wrap all of this up, I think it's just really important to start, because so often people they worry about what's going to happen, and then it can be paralysing, right? Whatever you're thinking, but sometimes you just need to get going, and again, manage the risk and make sure you're kicking on, and remind yourself to have fun.